Guys, welcome to another episode of Spoken Like a Man. I am the man, Donnie, and I am really excited to have this guest. We've actually been trying to work this out for a while now. She's been going through a whole lot of stuff, but I've got Maddie on here, who is a detransitioner who was freed from the delusion of thinking she was something that she could not be. Maddie, thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it. I really admire you and everything you've been doing, watching your socials, and just being open about everything. I appreciate you and thank you for being on my show.
Oh, thank you, Donnie. I'm happy to be here. Glad we could finally make it happen.
I know. How you know what? How long have we been working on this? I think it's been a few months, hadn't it? Probably
I
a
think
couple
you
months,
you
maybe.
reached out to me maybe like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Trying to get this done. Now, you know what? I feel graced by your presence, Maddie.
oh, thank you so much.
So I kind of told you briefly what I'm going to be doing here in this episode is I really just want to give your testimony, right? Like how you grew up, how you got to where you were, how you fell into that delusion, and then how you were delivered from it. So, what was it like growing up? Were you in a Christian home, or tell me a little bit about your childhood? This podcast is brought to you by My Snackies. We're a family owned Christian business that believes in traditional family values, loves America, and supports our service members. If you like freeze dried candy, make sure you check out My Snackies at my-snackies.com.
Sure. Yeah. So this is actually good because I've been working on writing my book, so I've been like recapping all of my childhood anyways. So,
Oh,
okay.
nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. I
Um,
would read your book, Maddie.
oh, thanks. It's gonna be a minute before it comes out, but so I am the oldest daughter of five children. I grew up in a Catholic household. Um, we moved around a lot um, when I was a kid. Um, so kind of like my only stability was really my family, but in my family there was kind of a lot of conflict, a lot of tension. I think, it requires like a lot of emotional maturity to be a parent or to be like a really good parent. I think my parents were not fully prepared for that, and they fought a lot when I was a kid, and I was a really sensitive kid and really emotional and very creative, very intuitive, and with also like a really strong sense of justice. I've always had that, and I just was constantly like criticized for being who I was. I was yelled at a lot for being sensitive, for crying a lot, things like that. So I really feel like I didn't get the emotional nourishment that I needed as a child. Of course, my childhood had many good parts. I spent a lot of time playing outside with my siblings, and I did go to like Sunday school as a child, and um, let's
Like
see.
raised really, really Catholic? I'm kind of curious on that. So, like, are we talking we went to Catholic school, or is more of you went to mass once a week?
So I went to Catholic school for kindergarten and half of first grade, actually. And so when I was going there, that was when I lived in Kentucky. I would go to mass at school and then also on Sundays. And on Sundays, I would also go to Sunday school. But I would say, like, in the home, we weren't that strictly Catholic. Like, my parents, took us to church, but I don't feel that they really instilled, they didn't really talk to us about God or Jesus. I think it was really just in church where we talked about that. When we were really little,
Mhm.
my dad would always pray before meals. I do remember that, but that really like went by the wayside after some
So
time.
that was kind of the extent of your exposure to the
Yeah,
love of God. You know, the
yeah.
reason I ask these things is one of the premises of my podcast is Jesus Christ kind of has to be the foundation of your
Mm,
family in order for those things, in order for you to have a good life, basically.
hmm.
So that's kind of why I asked these questions. You said something. You had a skewed perception of justice. Could you explain that? Or did I say that right? Did I frame that right?
Uh, I said I always had a strong sense of justice. So like when things were felt wrong to
Strong
me,
sense
I
of
was I
justice.
was like very upset when things were not fair or right or just. Yeah.
So you said it's difficult for being good parents and stuff. What I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. So like, did you feel like you struggled being raised by your parents? Like, did you not have a good relationship with your parents? What did you mean by that? Because you said it's hard for him to be a good parent to raise you right. What did you mean?
Yeah, I definitely struggled with my parents a lot, and I do feel like it's a little difficult to talk about because like I do have a relationship with my parents now. I forgive them. I think, you know, that's why I said it's difficult, like especially with like having five kids, my parents had to have a lot of patience. My dad worked a lot. He was always the provider for my family, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Um, but yeah, I struggled a lot with them, feeling like they misunderstood me. I think that was kind of the root of a lot of my pain, and also just not having a strong emotional connection with my mother. My mother was really like emotionally unavailable, so that I think it was one of my like core like wounds that kind of led to my issues that I had later on in life.
Mhm. So speaking of that, when was it that you kind of started suffering some of that gender dysphoria? I guess
Mhm.
the that confusion in your identity really is what that is. When did that kind of start happening?
Yeah, I think the confusion with identity began when I was about in middle school. With That was kind of when I was exposed to like, I guess the concept of being gay, and I had a really close best girlfriend who I guess I don't know how it happened, but people started to think that we were together, and then I sort of got it into my head that maybe I was gay, and it really like I think confusion is a good word because I did feel very confused because at that point in my life I was young and I was actually always very innocent. I wasn't even thinking about things like that whatsoever. I had no sense of sexuality. Um, by like I would have been like 12, 13. So yeah, I would say the confusion began then. But in terms of gender identity, that probably happened later. Well, let's see. So by the time I got into high school, I was more like claiming like I think I called myself bisexual, and I felt
Hmm.
like that was who I was, and I would kind of dress like a little bit androgynous at school. I would like wear well, I was always very creative with my fashion choices, so I would wear like a button down with a bow tie and then like a skirt with high heels. Like I would mix and match things a lot. Um, but I did sort of the masculine look in fashion. Plus, I was on the internet, I was on Tumblr, and then I was the president of the local Gay Straight Alliance. And in that group, there were a lot of trans identified kids. And that was sort of when I began being exposed to that concept. I didn't think it was me. Actually, I didn't really even consider it until I went off to college. And so it was my first year in college. So I would have been 19. That was when I began to explore being trans for myself.
So it wasn't necessarily. It was more of just during a confusing time. Really, you got to think
Mm,
about it during middle school and stuff. Honestly, to put it bluntly, everybody's going through puberty and like a kind of a rough
mhm,
time of your life, and you're struggling with that sexuality and understanding what's going on. Did you try talking to your parents? Like, how were they involved with that? Because you said it started when you were young. You had your friends calling you gay. You had it seems like a culture that was kind of pushing it on you, maybe a little bit. I don't
mhm,
want to put words in your mouth or frame it from my purview. Could you expand on that a little bit? Like, did you feel like you were kind of being pushed into it? Did you feel like you could talk to your parents? Did you have any kind of support, any help?
mm. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely feel it was pushed on to me. Like I said, I was not even thinking about those things at that age. Um, and I think that there's really, gosh, I just really think that young people are not taught about how to have healthy relationships. I I wanted to have like close relationships with my friends who were girls. That did not make me gay.
Right.
I was a normal girl who wanted to be friends with other girls. And other people put those thoughts into my head that maybe, oh, maybe I wanted to do these things with them. But those ideas did not come from me at all. When it comes to my parents, I think around that age is when I really started to feel that separation from my parents because
Hmm.
I let's see, by that point I was going to public school. We had moved a couple times, and but I would still go to CCD on Sundays, which is, I forget what that stands for, but it's like the Catholic Church school for kids. And so CCD, as you get into middle school, you're basically like studying to make your confirmation, um, which is like the sacrament where you become an adult in the church. And so leading up
Okay.
to that time, I had decided I didn't want to be Catholic because I didn't understand it. And so when I was 13, I refused to make my confirmation in the church. Um, and that caused a lot of tension between me and my parents, because I was standing up for something I strongly believed in. Really, just, and I still stand by that because I didn't want to make a decision for myself that I didn't understand. I guess I understood the weight of something like that, being confirmed in the church. It's supposed to be a big deal. And if I
Hmm.
didn't understand it and I didn't want to do it, I shouldn't do it until I was ready. So I made that choice for myself, but it um, caused a huge rift between me and my dad, especially because my dad, I think, was more like, you know, faith was more important to him at that point. So my dad and I kind of like, we didn't even really talk for like a year when I was 13. Um, and my mom already was like emotionally just not there for me. So I didn't really have anyone I could talk to at that point in my life. And um, by the time I got to high school, I had found like I'd always found solace in teachers. Like I would have teachers that I really liked, and then like I had a librarian that I really liked. But those teachers, there was this narrative that the reason it became this narrative that the reason I was misunderstood was because I was queer, and so those teachers and those librarians, they would validate my the queer identity. And there was this narrative that was created that my parents didn't understand me because that was who I was.
Oh, you
So
know what? That actually kind of brings up a good question too.
mhm.
So I know that some schools, and even here locally where I'm at, they'll socially detransition a child or transition a child. Excuse me. They'll socially transition a child without informing the parents. So
Mhm.
did your parents know that that was going on? Why was there any communication from the school? I know you had the divide there. They probably had an
Mhm.
inkling because I don't know where you weren't hiding it from them, right? Hey guys, if you agree with our mission of spreading the love of Jesus Christ, shining light into the darkness, and standing firm on biblical truth, then you might consider wearing some of our merchandise. Head on over to SpokenLikeAMan.com, click on merchandise at the top of the page, and check out some of our Christian apparel. If bold apparel that makes a statement and starts conversations isn't really your style and you still want to sew into our mission, you can always click on donate at the top of the page and just give a monetary donation. Every little bit helps. Even just $1 goes a long ways in our mission. We can't do what we do without your help.
Well, so at that point, it was just the sexuality stuff. Like I said, I wasn't even exploring the trans identity. And at this point in time, I think this. So I graduated high school in 2016. So there wasn't a
You're
ton
much,
of.
much younger than me.
Yeah, yeah. But even so, like things have changed a lot since then. I would say at that point in time, I don't remember schools transitioning children without their parents' consent. I think it happened a little bit after me. But
Hmm.
I did know trans kids in my school, but their
I got you.
parents were involved. So
So it
yeah.
sounds kind of safe to say, and again, I'm summarizing stuff, and I don't ever want to be putting words in your mouth or in your story. I want to make sure it's completely you. But it sounds like you basically hit puberty, were struggling with your sexuality, didn't really have a whole lot of support, and then because you didn't have anybody to talk to, you had culture that was kind of uplifting these things to you. Is that
Hmm.
pretty accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Plus, throw in access to the internet, and it was just
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh
just
yeah.
not good.
Well, we're on platforms. We got to be kind of careful with our words.
Uh,
So I've noticed like a kind of a trend in these things was corn kind of a part of that, or
um, Actually, yes, and that's funny that you asked that because nobody's asked me that at all in the interviews that I've done. Yeah, definitely. Funnily enough, my parents were pretty like protective, so my parents put like a filter on our Wi-Fi when we were in high school. But on Tumblr, you can access anything. So yeah, I would watch stuff on Tumblr, and it was like lesbian stuff that I would watch. Um,
it's sad that parents. This is again making why I say that putting God as your foundation is so important because parents are called to educate their kids and guide their kids in these things. And
Mm,
now we've got society, culture, internet, everything where there's just so much data, so much information out there that is just constantly in our children's faces. And if we're not making our identity and our foundation in Christ, then we're not able to protect our family from that. So yeah, that's kind of why I was asking about that. There's a trend that I've noticed in transgender folks I've spoken with, because I've actually spoken to a lot now, and usually folks deal with borderline personality disorder,
mm,
SAs, pornography, right? Takes a part of
mhm,
that, and autism. Believe it or not,
mm,
it's kind of a. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm just specifically speaking off of what I've noticed, kind of a trend in the folks I've spoken to, and it
mhm,
seems like most people, most detransitioners, and even some transgender folks I've spoken to, suffer from kind of all of these or a mixture thereof.
mm,
Um, so I don't know if any of that kind of relates to you. Again, I was going to kind of get into it because I like to try to find trends, right? I've come to the conclusion that a lot of this really is kind of a social contagion, right? If you've got a culture that's pushing on you, because from your story alone, you're like, okay, I didn't really have a whole lot of support in the way to talk to, couldn't go to my parents, but then you have this culture and society and the internet and all this data pushing it in on you. I don't know how you would call that not a like cultural issue, like pushing those ideas on you. So
mhm,
sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. They're observations I make, and your story just kind of aligns with it for everything you've said so far. So
mhm.
you're in high school. You have a high school that's kind of affirming you and lifting that up and saying your parents don't understand. What happened after that? Go ahead and go into that for me.
Yeah, so let's see. All throughout high school, like I said, I was exploring like queer identity. I was the president of a gay straight alliance. I struggled a lot with my mental health. I was really depressed all throughout high school, and also struggled a lot with like fatigue. I was exhausted. I would just come home from school and just like pass out. So I had some health issues going on. I was just really not well. I did not have a good relationship with my parents. I felt incredibly alone. But by my senior year, I was very excited for the future because I couldn't wait to be free, be on my own. Um, and despite my struggles, I was also pretty successful. I was really good at school. I was president of a lot of things. I was captain of the color guard, and I had really worked a lot on like my confidence as well. So like that was always something I struggled with, was confidence. So like by the time I was a senior in high school, I was like, even though I had these underlying issues, I was feeling like better, excited for the future. I ended up picking a college to go to in Washington, D.C. And I told myself when I moved out of my parents' house that I was never going to live there again. Um, I went to DC for college. This would have been August of 2016. I was 18, almost 19. Um, and I guess what happened there is like, I guess I kind of jumped into like a full on community and a whole life because I lived there. I lived on campus where being queer could be my entire identity.
Who you are,
So
who you become.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like my entire friend group was all like, it was mostly other young women. They all identified as queer. There was a big like LGBT group on campus. They had a strong presence. There were like rainbow flags everywhere. Um, I joined the women's rugby team, and women's rugby is kind of notorious for having a lot of gay stuff happening.
Mm. Gay
Um,
stuff. I love how
so
you put that. That's gay stuff happening. Yeah.
so yeah, and then of course like I got
Doesn't that go for a lot of? I don't mean offense by this, but I think that goes for a lot of sports. I think softball is another one you hear that a
yeah,
lot about.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when you think about that, you think about gay stuff going on a softball team. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's a stereotype, but it's also true. And we could go delve into
yeah.
why that's the case. I probably could come up with some theories, but um regardless, I was just surrounded by, all this stuff. And also, I suddenly got access to alcohol. I was underage, but it was very easy to get alcohol. And, me and my friends, we would drink. And I really had no self-control. I mean, I had unlimited access to these things, and I had total freedom to do whatever I wanted with my life. I didn't understand the repercussions of my actions, and because I had so many issues with my parents, feeling controlled, feeling misunderstood, a lot of what I began to do was out of rebellion and like this newfound sense of freedom. Um, so
You know what?
by
Sorry, at this point, is it more still the sexuality, the queer thing, or are you
mhm.
starting to have the gender dysphoria that you're going to start acting on, or this is more you're just trying to figure out your sexuality and kind of who you are?
Yeah, so it was really like sexuality and more like casual exploration of like just with like dressing more masculine. But by
Uh-huh.
my second semester of college, I had started to watch like a lot of trans YouTubers. And there was like this one particular female to male person who I would watch. And watching this person's videos, at some point, it just got into my head. I was like, I think I'm trans and I think I'm supposed to be a man. And honestly, like it really happened like really quickly because I was just looking at photos the other day, like my first semester of college, like I was wearing makeup. I was wearing like tank tops. Like I looked like just a regular teenage girl. And then by my second semester of college, it was like everything switched and I decided that I wanted to be a boy. I changed my name. And by the summer after my freshman year of college, I started taking hormones.
So your second semester or your second year of college, second semester of the second year, is that right?
Uh,
You would start
First year, second semester. So
second
like,
semester.
yeah, yeah,
How old were you? Like 19, maybe 20?
19, yeah.
19 when you started hormones. Tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about that process. 19 years old, so you're of legal age and you can make those kind of decisions. What kind of counseling or therapy did the doctors advise you to have before you started on those, or was it just you went in and said, "Hey, I think I'm a guy. I would like hormones." Tell me a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So in Washington, D.C., there is an LGBT health clinic called Whitman Walker Health, and I knew about it because of friends that I had that went there. And I went in. It was very easy to make an appointment with the doctor. My first appointment, I told the doctor, I don't think I even said I think that I'm trans because I knew the script that I was supposed to say. So I said, I am this, I want
Uh-huh.
this. And I believe I had to have one session with a therapist who was also someone at the clinic. And their
At that
job
same clinic.
yeah, so that their job, if they work for that clinic, is to write affirming letters for hormones and surgery. So the doctor referred me to his colleague, the therapist. The therapist saw me once, didn't really know any of my background, and only knew what I told him. And I believe, I think between the first appointment and when I started hormones, I'm pretty sure it was like 2 weeks.
So no like extensive therapy or anything.
Mhm.
I always thought before medical invention. I'll tell you. For instance, I had weight loss surgery years ago. Right,
Mm,
it took me so long to get the medications and all of that stuff approved. And
mm,
to me, that seems more of a life-saving surgery than gender affirming surgeries or medical intervention. And it seems to me from stories that I've heard and stuff, it's more of a kind of a money mill, right? Like you just said, this clinic has got clinicians there that will give you letters to get you on the hormones because you know the doctors were getting paid for it. It all seems so wrong to me, right? Not just morally, but like even in a health wise, right? If you're thinking of changing your body and physically altering or taking medical intervention, you would think they would be like, okay, this is let's really make sure this is going to happen because there are very real consequences for these changes. And it doesn't appear that that's what's going on. Do you think that uh doctors are kind of doing their job when it comes to this stuff, even if people are of age? Because I disagree with gender affirming care, whether you're a minor or an adult. Do you think that doctors are doing their job and making sure that this person is really assessing these things before they do any kind of medical intervention?
mm. No, I don't think that they are doing their job. Um, I really sometimes struggle with how much grace or compassion to give the doctors, because there is this narrative that trans people are real, that some people are actually trans, and that it's so incredibly important to validate them and get them access to hormones. And I was deeply steeped in that ideology, and like all these doctors and therapists, like they are too. But I think that we should hold them to a higher standard. They should be thinking about these things. They should be thinking about social contagions. They should be looking out for young people who are vulnerable, 19-year-olds wanting to make drastic health decisions. Like, why did, that doctor who probably spent many, many years in medical school, why did he not look at me and see this is a healthy young woman and consider the
Mhm.
implications of what might happen to me if I were to go down the route of taking hormones and eventually get surgery, which I did. So, why he knows biology. He knew that I was female. He knew that I was a young woman.
Mhm.
Why was he not there to stop me? And, for a long time, I really like gave the professionals a lot of grace in this, because I do believe that they are sort of like believing this lie, but they're the professionals. They should be thinking about this stuff a lot deeper.
You know what? You actually hit the nail on the head there when you said they're professionals. When I'm thinking professional, these people that are doing this, it's not that they're doing it in a professional manner; it's that they're being businessmen about it, right? So,
Mm,
do you know how much a transgender youth is worth to a hospital? Have you seen these
no, I haven't.
over the course of a lifetime? It's like something like $4 million, right? So it's been shown that allowing a child and guiding them through puberty in most situations, if they have good guidance, in most situations, it will cure gender dysphoria.
Mm,
And what doctors are doing are they're prescribing these chemicals to block the puberty from happening or to prolong the dysphoria in order to put them in line for a surgery, right? So you got to think
mm,
you're prolonging the cure of it, right? And then it's in order to get them into a surgery and then lifelong care afterwards. So each one of these youth or these young people that are going in this, and like I've spoken to several that were on puberty blockers as minors, right? And they extend that gender dysphoria so that they can put them in a pipeline for surgery. To me, it's just a money mill because you got to think $4 million a head, and the the hormones that are diagnosed, the surgeries, the aftercare. Uh, they don't care. The people that are doing these things, they do not care about the person. They care about the money. I
mm,
don't think that you can be affirmed. I don't think that you can really believe the things that are being said, right? There is absolutely no scientific evidence that says that that woman is a man. Down to the very core of their being, that's a woman or that's a man. Doctors
mhm,
know this. We've known this since the very beginning of time, right? God created them man and woman. And I think for a doctor to do these things, it has to be about money. It can't be about compassion. It can't be about anything
mm,
else, right? I really think the doctors are doing this specifically for the money. And I think we should hold them to a higher standard.
definitely. Yeah.
So uh you're going through college, you started the hormones. Sorry, I go off on tangents. I'm very passionate about this. I think you know that because
Hmm.
I have so much love for you, Maddie. You have no idea.
Oh,
Like our transgender community, the transgender folks, that a lot of times it gets said that we're hateful. I've seen the stuff that's said about you, Maddie.
yeah.
I love these folks, and I don't want them to go through these things. It has nothing to do with hatred or anger. I love them. I want them to be healed.
Absolutely.
I just want to put that out there because I know you're there too.
Hmm.
So
Yes. Yes.
you're going through the hormones in college,
Mhm.
and so tell me, is this how this kind of progresses?
Yeah. So I started the hormones the summer of 2017. Then I started my second year of college. I didn't tell my parents that I had started the hormones. But they started to work on me really fast. My voice changed really fast. My appearance changed really fast. But I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't want them to try to stop me. So I waited until I legally changed my name to Maxwell. And I called my parents the day after I legally changed my name, and I said to them, "Hey, I'm actually a man." uh, and I basically was like, respect me or else. And then I gave them like a week um, to try to accept it. And then when they didn't, I cut them off, cut them out of my life. And after that, I ended up having to drop out of school because I didn't have any money. I moved in with the person that I was dating at the time, who was also trans and also transitioning. Um, and then, yeah, life kind of went on from there. Um,
So, what all? Uh, I'm just to put it out there for everybody. What all medical intervention did you have?
yeah, so I took testosterone for 5 years. So every week I would inject myself in my thigh with uh, testosterone. And then about almost a year after I started testosterone, I got a double mastectomy. And those were the things that I did medically. But it was a pretty radical transformation. If you go on my social media, you can see photos. I looked like a man. I grew a full beard, a full mustache.
I'll
Um,
tell you what. Could you send? Would you mind sending me a couple of those for my edit on this? I'll put them
yeah,
up here for
yeah,
folks. Is
absolutely,
that all
yeah.
right?
hmm Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Um, but yeah, I lived as a man for I usually say about 6 years total. Even though I was only on the hormones for 5. I was fully like immersed in the LGBT community. I was pretty active in the LGBT like party scene in DC. I dated a lot. I partied a lot, drank a lot, smoked a lot. Like I did. I just was doing a lot of stuff during those years. I also was, I guess you could say, I was in like constant fight or flight mode. I was always like moving and work. Like I was working. I did end up finishing my degree online. I also was a Zumba instructor. Like I was doing a lot of stuff during those years, um, as this self that I had created, um, this
Yeah.
this man that I had created.
So what was your? Did you have any kind of spiritual life? Were you walking with God at all during this time, or just kind of turned away from that completely? Or
Yeah, I had very little spiritual life at all. I guess I I would say that I sort of believed in something, but I didn't know what it was. Yeah, but didn't I wasn't like wasn't praying. I didn't have any like I really struggled to like understand like why life was the way that it was. Like I was kind of always just in misery about things. I always kind of believed things were pretty negative. I mean, I guess I don't know. I still managed to have a positive outlook, but I felt very like sad. Yeah, I felt really sad.
Mhm.
Um,
you know, a lot of times when people are struggling with that identity, I always put it this way, and I say it really almost on every podcast because I just hear the stories of people that were broken and they're trying to figure out their identity. They're trying to fill this void, right? They're seeking something and they don't even realize it. And it's the way that God made us. God created us when he was making us. It was for us to love him and to pursue him, right? Because he's pursuing us. So we're all made with like this God shaped hole in our lives. It's supposed to guide us. We'll fill it with God, right? And if more people did that, they wouldn't struggle a lot with these identity crises. I don't think I can. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I know not one detransitioner or transgender person I've spoken with has a close walk with Jesus Christ. And most of the time, when they are transgender and they do end up like putting that at his feet, they end up detransitioning anyways and becoming their identity in Christ. So
mm,
again, I went off on a tangent. I was actually going to backtrack a little bit again to the doctors.
mm.
So you had healthy breasts removed from you. How old were you?
I was 20 by that point.
20 years old. You had healthy breast tissue removed. The testosterone took you 2 weeks to get on. How long did it take for you to get the double mastectomy procedure?
That was also really easy to get. Um, Took a little bit longer, maybe like a month total, between like
Again, the same
requesting
kind
it,
of
getting the
procedure
referral.
basically.
Yeah.
Was it at the same clinic that you did that?
I got my letter and my referral from the clinic. So I got a referral from my doctor, and then I got a letter of support from the therapist. Those are both from the clinic. And then the surgeon was a surgeon at Howard University Hospital in DC. Um, Interestingly, also the surgeon that I went with, one, she was a woman. Two, she wasn't like really well known for doing top surgery, as they call it. And the surgery that I got, I've never heard of anybody else getting it. Actually, what she did specifically, and also I had a couple friends that also went to her, and they had really kind of, I guess you could say, botched results. Um,
Oh
so
no.
yeah, I just really like. I don't think she really knew what she was doing, to be honest. So
So
yeah.
you had a surgery. What do you mean by that? You had a surgery that they don't generally do. A radical double mastectomy is what they generally do. Is they remove all the breast tissue. You
Hmm.
had something different than that done.
Well, so no, I did have that, and I got like I have two. I had it's called double incision, where you have two. I have two
Mm,
scars. But she did something. I mean, this is kind of a little detailed. I don't mind sharing it, but so she didn't. Normally, they cut off your nipples.
right,
They cut them off, and that is usually why, if you get that surgery, you don't have any like sensation left in your
right.
nipples because the nerves are cut off. Uh, Basically, with me, she didn't do that, so um, my nipples were not cut off, thank God. Um, and basically, like
Amen. Really?
truly, it's terrifying to think about that. But basically, like she kept them attached, and then the skin was pulled down over, and then so I have scars around my nipples, but they are still attached. And I'm actually really
That's
grateful because I have this like hope that I can maybe actually breastfeed when I have children. I don't know yet, but yeah, and also my breasts have started growing back since I stopped taking the hormones, so that's kind of amazing. But yeah,
amen. Congratulations. I
absolutely,
know that might
yeah,
sound weird to say, but really, like I've spoken to detransitioners that that do not are not that fortunate, and
absolutely,
the
yeah,
it's so much more than just a physical scar for them. And
yes,
just
yes,
I thank God that you were able to start growing your breast back and that you did not lose parts of your body that most people do generally,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
I've
I'm
never
grateful for
heard
that, and
of
thank you for sharing.
anybody else.
I haven't either,
Yeah,
honestly. You're the first person that I've spoken to, and I really have spoken to quite a few now. You're the
yeah,
first person where you kind of left semi intact.
yeah, yeah. Like I guess you could say it was almost just like a massive breast reduction is
Uh huh.
kind of, I guess, what it was. I mean, my chest was pretty much totally flat, but she did leave some tissue, which is why it's growing back. So, yeah, I
That's
mean,
actually really awesome. I'm so happy for you. Like I know I'm not to sound weird, and I'm not trying to. I'm very
no,
very happy for you because I look at the emotional damage that has caused so many women that I've spoken to.
yeah.
I hope you know how fortunate you are there.
Oh, I know, and I'm extremely
So all
grateful.
right,
Go ahead.
that's small favors, right? God,
Mm,
you know what? I'll put it this way: God shows us so much grace too. Like if you look back at some of the stuff that you've done in your life, because obviously now you have a better relationship with God, and look at some of the stuff, and there's just these little things that you can see His hand in. Because I would definitely say that was God. I really would. If you think
absolutely.
about it, if nobody's having the surgery done performed in that manner, but you just happen to have it, that's some grace right there. God, that was
Absolutely.
God looking out for you. All right, guys, it's official. We now have our own merchandise here at Spoken Like a Man. Head on over to SpokenLikeAMan.com and click on merchandise at the top. If you like apparel that'll make a bold statement and is sure to start a conversation, then you need to check it out. Every purchase helps support us as we try to spread the healing love of Jesus Christ. So head on over to SpokenLikeAMan.com and show your support.
Yes, yes.
So you lived for, you said, 6 years as a man? Did I get that right? 6 years?
Yep.
What? Tell, so you had the beard, everything. We're going to put some pictures up for you guys. Um, what was kind of the decline of that, right? Or was it just an all of a sudden immediate thing that happened, or was it a gradual coming to realization? Tell me a little bit
Mm,
about how that kind of went down.
yeah. So I would say the decline began after I felt that I had reached the top. And you know how things go like that. You think you've made it, and then it's like, oh, that wasn't it. So the number one thing that I felt proud of at that point in my life was being attractive. That was like the thing that I thought was the greatest achievement. So, and people told me all the time that I was a very attractive man. I sought validation from literally anywhere that I could for my appearance. It was very, I guess, very vain and very self-centered. Um, I had done everything that I was willing to do, like surgically. Again, thank God I didn't consider anything else because for me it was really all like aesthetics. So I didn't want to do
Mhm.
anything else. And I had achieved, I guess, what I felt was like
You know what?
material. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I'm so sorry. You said something actually that's pretty important there. You said that to you it was all aesthetics. Did you
Mhm.
believe you were a man, or was it I'm a woman that wants to appear a man? Did you actually believe you were a man?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. I actually like
Okay.
I was so far into it that I didn't like to tell people that I was trans, even other trans people. I would sort of set myself apart from them and I would try to just I would just tell people I was a man. And I felt very like secretive about the trans part. Um, of course, I do think that one small part of me knew that it wasn't true, but I was not that was not in my conscious mind. My conscious mind at the time, I was telling everybody that I was man, and I do feel that I believed it, crazily enough. Yeah.
So you actually thought that you were a man. Okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to. You just said something. I was like, you know what? I want to get a little clarification on that because I've talked to some who said that really they knew they weren't. They just wanted to appear to
Mm,
be, and they were doing it to kind of fit in. And I've talked to some who really genuinely believed they were men. Right.
mm,
And so,
mhm.
sorry, I just wanted a little clarity on that, and I interrupted
Yeah.
you again. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I think that's kind of
Um,
an important question, actually.
yeah, it really is. So the you kind of hit the pinnacle, right? You're like,
Mhm,
okay, this is the pinnacle. I'm a good looking man. I'm not telling people I'm a woman. I'm just even transgender people. I'm a man.
mhm.
And once you kind of hit the top of the peak there, what kind of caused the downfall?
Yeah. I would say in addition to those, the peak of like trans identity, I'd also like achieved a certain level of material success that I felt proud of. Like I had uh, I finished college. I felt proud that I did it all on my own, like without anybody's help. I had gotten my own apartment. I bought a car. I had like a full-time job with a salary, health benefits. I felt like uh, I felt ahead of my peers. Actually, I felt on top of things. I also had like somehow like saved up a bunch of money. I don't even know how I did that, to be honest. Um, um, and I just began to realize that I was still deeply, deeply unhappy. I would
Hmm.
wake up every day just feeling like there was a dark cloud above my head. I had no motivation. I felt depressed. I had very low energy. I was lethargic. I was fatigued. Some of those health issues that I had had like earlier, they kind of came back. I just felt like I just felt so dull. Um, and I was like this can't be it, I was like, I want something better for my life. Um, so yeah.
You realize that you're at the top. You know what? I'm not that. I can relate to that on a level where I was putting finances first, right?
Mm,
I had the financial firm. I had more money than I knew what to do with, basically, and it just I was still so depressed and anxious and just not happy. And then again, it kind of boils back to that we try to fill that hole with the wrong things. It
mhm,
really does, it doesn't matter what you're putting in that hole. It can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be an identity, it can be money. Like me, all these people try to fill that, and then when they continually do it, and then I I wish more people would find it sooner rather than later when they realize that no matter how much they pile into that hole, they're not going to be happy, and they need to turn to God. Now, we haven't kind of gotten there with you, but
mhm.
the sooner people realize that God fills that hole, the sooner they can start healing rather than piling whatever it is they're piling into it. So, uh, you kind of realize no matter what you did, you've hit this pinnacle, and it still just doesn't feel right. Basically, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
what started your downhill decline. Was there a one moment that was, and I don't, we talked about it beforehand. I don't even mind you being open about any of that. I just one moment that really is like, okay, I'm done with this. I've got to come back to who I am.
Mm.
What did that for you? You had a decline. There had to have been that aha moment, right? What was it that led up to that, and what happened?
Yeah. So I mean, if we're going chronologically, it would still be a little bit of time before that moment actually happened.
Oh yeah, go
So
into it then. Absolutely.
yeah, because let's see, I started to have this sort of like uh, I guess realizing that everything that I had strived for, everything I had created, like it wasn't giving me what I needed. That would have been like around January of 2022 was when that began. And so then I started to like, I kind of went down the route of like learning about like holistic healing methods. Like I started to learn about like trauma and spirituality, but like in the broader sense of just like spiritual everythingness, definitely not like a Christian perspective. But it
Hmm.
was, it was my beginning. That was what I was open to at the time. And I decided to embark upon what I call the healing journey at the time. And that began with like this idea that was presented to me that I do believe this was God speaking to me. It, this idea that I could heal. I began to believe for the first time in my life that healing was actually possible. Um, and that was something that nobody had ever told me. No doctor I'd ever been to, no therapist I'd ever seen had ever told me that healing was possible. But I began to believe for the first time in my life that it was possible that one day I would be happy, healthy, and enjoying my life, like actually be content with myself. And I had never felt that way. I had so much inner turmoil um, that had just I'd carried with me for so many years from a pretty young age. So I decided to embark upon this healing journey, which led me to kind of make a lot of decisions. Like I stopped drinking alcohol, that was a big one. So I became sober. And then
How much was
once I,
alcohol? You said you became sober. How much was alcohol a part of your life? You don't have to go real. I'm just curious.
um, by that point, I'd kind of calmed down from like my early 20s. But I was still like going out on the weekends and getting drunk, definitely. I had like, I remember the fall before that, I had one night where I blacked out. I got blackout drunk and I couldn't remember what had happened. And I felt so much shame the next day that I was like, I'm never going to do that again, like ever. Like I felt the worst I'd ever felt in my life. Um, so it was still pretty prevalent. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So I didn't mean to get you sidetracked too much there. I
That's
just you
okay.
bring up stuff that I want to expand on a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's
So
important. And I guess just on that thread too, I was also smoking cannabis like every single day as well.
yeah.
And I was also addicted to corn, I would say, and also like I was, uh, I guess you could say it was almost like an addiction to, I don't know how to say it, hooking up with strangers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like promiscuity. I was very,
Fornication.
yeah, sure, yeah. I was extremely reckless and very unsafe with the things that I was doing to my
Oh,
body.
that's not good.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. When I look at it now, I can't believe some of the things that I did. Um,
Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to this, girl. That grace of God, really. You
Absolutely,
go back and look at the things that you've done and how you're turning out and how your life's going now. You're like, God, thank you for what you were doing in my life. I know I wasn't following you. I know I wasn't chasing you, but thank you for looking out for me because you know, with the things that you've been through, God was looking out for you.
absolutely. I mean, there are so many times
All right,
I
so
could have died.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, literally, I've been there myself, and I've heard so many stories like that, and it just by the grace of God alone. So you had sobered up, right? So I'll continue on your path there. I keep sidetracking you. I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
You had sobered up, stopped with that stuff, and realized that something was wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, as soon as I like, said out loud that I wanted to heal, I feel like that was when God was like, "Okay, all right, we're gonna cause some major changes in your life." So I kind of watched as my life fell apart. Uh, because I think this was necessary because I held on so tightly to certain things that God was like, "I'm just gonna take these away." So I lost my apartment that I had. It turned out it was infested with mold, which was also
Oh
like kind of
no.
causing some of the fatigue issues I was having. Also, um, I ended up losing all my money. I let's see. I decided I had to leave DC, um, and it felt like an abrupt decision. I was just like, I have to get out of here. I cannot be here any longer. So I sold everything that I had, and it was just whatever I could fit in my little car. And me and my cat drove across the country to move to Las Vegas, of all places, where I had some family. Family I wasn't even close to be honest, but I just knew I had some people there where I could go. And I had wanted to go to Los Angeles because that felt similar to the lifestyle that I'd had, but I didn't have the money to go to Los Angeles. I didn't know anybody in Los Angeles, and I'm really glad I did not go to Los Angeles. So I ended up moving to Las Vegas, and right before I had gone, I had decided to stop taking the hormones, um, which I just, it was on my 5 year anniversary of starting them. I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I just feel complete. I had no idea why because I was still clinging really tightly to the trans identity. I still thought that was who I was. I had no thoughts in my mind that I was not supposed to be a man at that point in my life. I really just thought, I'm just done with the hormones. We'll see what happens. I actually felt pretty convinced that I could still I would still look like a man even without them, um, which was kind of funny because that was not the case. But
Really?
yeah, no, my body started to
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
back
No. That.
pretty quick.
So you moved to Vegas, and so
hmm
you know what? I haven't asked this. I'm building a timeline here in my head. How old are you now, Maddie?
I'm 28.
28. So you moved back to Vegas, and you stopped taking the hormones. You still, at that point, still thought you were a guy. You're saying, right? You hadn't
hmm
actually started detransitioning. Is that
No,
accurate?
correct. Yeah.
All right. So what was it that you knew that you could be healed, right? What was it
hmm
that led you to, okay, I'm going to live my true identity? If you were still struggling at this point, you moved to Vegas, you had the family there that you weren't real close with. You were still thinking you were a man, but you had stopped. something made you stop taking the hormones.
Hmm.
What was it that led you up to, okay, I can't do this. This is not me. I'm going to
Hmm.
live the way I'm actually supposed to live. What led up to that?
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I got to Vegas. The hormones were leaving my system, and the day after my 25th birthday, my period came back, and I was like so happy about that. It felt like a birthday gift, and I was like, but even then, I didn't connect that to have anything to do with who I was. I still really thought I was supposed to be a man, and it actually took me a whole year. Uh, so I was off the hormones for a year. My body was changing. It was very emotional. I had also like speaking of clinging on to things, I had stayed in a relationship with someone from DC even after moving, and that one took me a long time to let go of. Um,
Was this the one that was transitioning?
no, different person by this point, but this person was also trans identified. So,
Okay.
yeah. Um, yeah, first year in Vegas. I also my family that I had moved to Vegas for was my cousin and her two little kids. So you know, being around children became a part of my life, and I think that definitely had an influence on me. Just like stepping back into like a caretaker role, I used to take care of my siblings, so that definitely helped put things into perspective, and I think helped my healing process. But like I said, it took a whole year, um, and I had begun to sort of like have some questions, like why am I going through this? What is happening with my body? Like people were starting to like be confused about if I was a man or a woman, and I started to actually feel upset when people would think that I was a man. But I really like felt I was just clinging on so hard to that trans identity, and the the moment of truth. I actually had a psychedelic experience in an ayahuasca ceremony, and that night was I really came to that experience with one question, which was why am I in so much pain? And the answer came to me clear as day. Uh, you're a woman, and I had to face that truth. And it was both beautiful and devastating because I saw a lot of visions of myself as a beautiful woman, and like I loved that woman that I saw, but I thought I had gone so far because when I looked in the mirror, that was not who I saw. I looked
Mhm.
a mess. I didn't look like how I look now. I still had a lot of facial hair, and so I really wasn't sure if I was being shown like my future or if I was being shown what I had ruined, you know. But from that point on, I had to make a choice. I had to choose um, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and I understood that in order to truly love myself, I had to love the woman that God made me to be. And so from that night forward, I chose uh, to be myself again.
So you think that uh, while you were uh, under the influence of those psychedelics, it was? Do you think you like were more clearly like you maybe you got out of your own way and kind of heard God? I'm not. I don't want to be said that I'm uplifting these things or anything like that because most people that are watching my podcast know that when I had a radical change, I was actually under the influence of cannabis myself. And
Mm,
God came to me and said, "Hey, you need to stop doing what you're doing right now. You've got men to lead. You've got sons to lead. What are you doing?" Like,
mm,
I'm not uplifting uh the substance itself, but would you say it was you felt like you were able to get out of your own way and hear God clearly? Is that kind of what you were
absolutely.
saying?
Yes, absolutely.
So you started trying to pursue your identity with Christ, right? You're through Christ because God made man, God made woman. You realize you're a woman. What
Hmm.
has that path been like for you since, right? Because I know that you said you were an active member of that community. I have personally seen some of the stuff that's been said about you. I've seen some of the online abuses you've had. What has that been like for you, like on an emotional level? And tell me some of the instances that have kind of messed with you.
Mm.
Hey, Mo Roboto.
Um, yeah, I mean, it took me a little bit of time to begin speaking out about the journey, because at first it was very like internal. There was a lot of grief I had to process, like so much grief. Part of me wishes I had shared about it just as I was going through it, but um, yeah. And then I started my podcast called The Bridge about a year ago now, and then I started also speaking on TikTok, and TikTok has actually been the main place where a lot of my content has gone viral. Um, and I would say I was terrified to start speaking out, like actually terrified. And that's why I like waited for so long. And I would say it's been way better than I expected. Most of the comments I get are great. Most people are very supportive.
Supportive. Yep.
Yes, 1000%. And I'm so grateful for that because I wasn't expecting that. I was told, and I think that this fear was put into my mind by honestly the trans community that I was so big a part of, that I would be hated. That's not been the case. I do get hate comments, absolutely. Um, and they do stand out to me because they're different, but they don't get to me. They don't affect me like that.
Nothing's
I
gonna mess
was,
with you. That's all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, the main thing that I get is that, people who are a part of the trans community or supporters of the trans community think that I'm being hateful. Or they also they really like to discount my experience, and they like to say that my experience is just my experience, that it has nothing to do with them. And to that is something that I really like to speak about because I strongly disagree. I personally feel that I was the poster child for the trans identity. If you look at my pictures, I fully transformed myself to look like a man, and trust me, I did not do that just for fun. So um, I
Now,
think
you
that
know what? I'm
my
going to hone in on something there real quick,
mhm,
if you don't mind.
yeah.
Uh, I noticed you didn't say you have anything but support, basically from and the community that's not that community is what I would say, right? There's no
Mhm.
hardship or anything like that. It's been a lot of support. Hey, welcome back to your identity. But it sounds like who's been giving you a hard time are the people from that community.
Absolutely,
Is that pretty
yes.
accurate? The other one, it's kind of the
Yep.
opposite way, right? These are the ones that are supposed to be accepting of you. And I've seen the pictures, girl. I've seen there's no saying that you were not living that lifestyle at all. Like I'm going to put those pictures up for you guys to see. And it's funny to me that that community is supposed to be so accepting, so uplifting when you come out of your delusion, right? And you all you do is speak out about it and you're not being hateful at all, you're just speaking truth. Hey, you guys, I thought I was a man, but I realized I can't be a man and I'm a woman. The amount of, oh, you never lived that, you can't speak on it, or this is all hate, you're hateful, it's like that's crazy to me. So sorry, I didn't mean to interject. I just wanted to point out that's where you're getting those bad comments from. It's not
Yeah.
from folks like me that say, "I love you, Maddie. I'm so happy for you. I am so genuinely happy for you because I know that this is the only way you're going to find true happiness." So I just want to
Yeah.
point out that I'll let you speak on it a little bit. I just want to touch base on it.
Yeah, it's a good point because those are the people that said they were going to be my family forever, that they were going to love me forever. Like, that's a lot of what we would talk about in the LGBT community is like this unconditional love that we were seeking. We decided to give it to one another because we didn't get it from our families. And it's really like a community built on trauma and hurt, is really what it is. So we seek
Yeah.
validation, um, external validation from one another largely based on our appearances. Um, and yeah, my very own former best friends like won't speak to me anymore. And like I said, they really do like to discount my experience. Like a couple of my like very best friends told me like they said they believe that I'm really a woman. They're happy for me. They think I'm a beautiful woman, but they don't like that I'm speaking out about this.
Hmm.
And and they won't speak to me. They, won't have a personal conversation with me. One of my friends, former friends, I guess, got upset because in the beginning, when I was first like detransitioning, I was still figuring things out. It took me a while to really solidify my actual opinions about everything. Um, I started to say that, I believe that I I transitioned because of trauma. And then my friend was like, wait, so do you think all people transition because of trauma? I was like, yes, absolutely. I don't think anyone in a totally healthy state of mind would choose to try to transform themselves into another sex. It's not a healthy thing to do. It's a very strange thing to do, and it's very strange that we live in a culture and in a society that encourages and supports that behavior. It's very, very strange.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I love you, and I know that most people like me that are God fearing men, God fearing women, people that are following Jesus, trying to follow Jesus, trying to live in His identity. All of us love you. I know that for a fact. So there's a lot of love out there, a lot of support for you. And you know what? Speaking of which, what is your prayer life like now? What's your because I open these with a prayer, and I'm going to be very honest. I forgot to pray before we came in, and I was kind of
Hmm.
worried about that. When I was halfway through, I was like, "Oh man, I forgot to pray." But you know what? I felt like this has gone very well, and I'm going to pray for you before we leave because I pray out too. So, what's your spiritual life like now? Like, are you still pursuing God? Are you trying to maintain that relationship? Are you praying? Are you in your Bible? Tell me a little bit about your relationship with God.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you
So,
there? I think I might have lost you.
oh, one sec. Uh,
You're breaking up.
okay, one second. I'm gonna switch my Wi-Fi. Am I
There
back?
we go. There she
Okay.
is.
All right,
There
cool.
she
I
is.
just had to switch my Wi-Fi. Okay.
So, what's your relationship with Christ like now?
Yeah. So in Vegas, like I was a part of this just like spirit there's like a big spiritual community in Vegas, and I continued to work with like psychedelics for healing from trauma and stuff like that. Um which helped, I would say, and I'm still making sense of that whole experience. But a lot of things were pointing me back towards Christianity and towards Jesus, and so I started to explore that more. Um, I guess one thing that I really felt began to feel very like convicted of is just that like there are certain rules that we have to follow like as humans to be good humans. And I really used to think that we should just be able to do whatever we wanted, and I began to just realize that we do need structure as human beings, and having a structure in faith is really important. Um, and then, yeah, honestly, like the past 4 months, I've really, really deepened in my relationship with God and with Jesus. And you know a little bit about what I've been going through, but I basically unexpectedly moved to New Jersey to help out a family member. And like, I knew it was going to be a spiritual journey when I came, but it's really been way deeper than I thought. I started like actually consistently going to church here, and like actually like started reading the Bible, and like I've really been delving a lot deeper into my faith. So I am very grateful for that. And I'm really grateful for the church community that I found here too. They've been really supportive and really helpful.
That's amazing. You know
Yeah.
what? You just if I promise you, Maddie, if you make sure that you're pursuing Christ at all times, you're trying to glorify Him in what you're doing, you're not putting yourself in the way. You get this peace, right? And it doesn't mean that everything's going to start going amazing. It doesn't mean everything's going to go great. It just means that you are so much more capable of handling the things the world throws at you.
Mm,
So I want you to keep pursuing that. Like just cling on to God, right? Not I would say that God is my lifeline, right? My wife is my support system, but God is my lifeline,
mm,
and He's my foundation. As long as I'm making sure that I'm trying to glorify Him, my life is going to be just fine because I know that He'll take care of me. Because not only am I faithful, but that He's faithful. He promises to be
mm,
faithful if we're faithful to Him, and He says He'll provide for us.
mm.
So on a well, before I close it, is there anything that you feel we haven't addressed you'd like to address?
Um, I
Like
think
part of
I
your
just
testimony, you said you're going to book, like anything that we might have left out that you want to touch on.
um I think I just want to go back to like the point that you brought up about just loving people who identify as trans. Um, I
Absolutely.
I don't really know if any of those people are gonna watch this or see this, but like if you are watching this, I want you to know that I love you and I care for you, and nothing I say comes from a place of hatred or negativity or judgment because I literally was you. I lived it, and um, there is always
You know
uh
what? We're getting questions here. Sorry, bear with
oh
me.
yeah.
I'm going to. So, there's a young lady on here that she found Christ. I know Emily, and I intend to do a podcast with her, but she was living in that lifestyle and delivered from it through the love of Jesus Christ. And she wants to know. She just asked simply if you agree with the LGBTQ affirmations and that kind of lifestyle. So I'll let you. She wasn't here for the whole thing, so I'll just
Okay.
let you answer it.
Um,
Do you agree with that lifestyle?
no, I don't. I don't believe that anybody is LGBT at all. I don't think this is something I haven't even spoken about much publicly, but I don't think anybody is supposed to be lesbian or gay. I don't think anybody is supposed to be transgender. I think we are all perfectly made in God's image, and we are meant to be man and women, and men and women are supposed to be together. Uh, yeah, so that's what I believe.
Amen. You get that, Emily? Did that answer it? She gave you the same exact answer I would have given.
And I'm happy to talk about it more. You can always reach out to me, like if you're trying to make sense of it, because it took me time to get here personally. Like I took me time to
Oh, you,
formulate my
she
opinions.
says she would love to be on. Are you saying you want to be on her podcast, Emily? She has a podcast as well
Yeah,
called the Broken Bridge. I can't
or
remember exactly what's it called. The
just the
Bridge. The
bridge,
Bridge.
the bridge. Yeah,
Yeah, the Bridge. Reach
yeah,
out to her. She's
yeah.
amazing. She's on TikTok. You can meet her on. You can hit her up on TikTok, and I'm sure she'd be happy to do a podcast with you. I'd be happy to do a podcast. She's asking if I do a podcast with us, so she can with her, so she can have a discussion with you.
Oh,
I'd be happy to
okay,
do that as well. Just reach out to us.
okay.
So in close, I do want to see in closing for anybody that is suffering from gender dysphoria or just that confusion in general. You've been there, you've gone through it. You've already said you love the community, you don't agree with them. What would you say to youth that watch this or anybody that even men, right? Men, women, adults,
Hmm,
anybody watching this that is dealing with these struggles of confusion and they've got culture lifting up what that is, saying that yes, they're right. They've got people affirming them. What would your message be for them?
hmm. All right. I would say if you're struggling and you don't want to struggle anymore, um, pray for God to show you the truth and give things up. Just be willing to give things up, and and God will take care of you. You just got to like release control over the things that you think are so important because they're not, and you will be okay.
Amen.
You will be okay when you let go. You'll be taken care of a
I
thousand
love
percent,
that.
and life will only get better.
Surrender, lay it at God's feet.
Yeah.
You know what? I was going to close out, but we got another question. So
Okay.
this one comes from Mo Rebuttal. Says, Maddie, what would you say were the largest factors that you feel pushed you into this movement to begin with?
I would say the predisposing factor would be like having gone through trauma and just not being in a good place of mind to begin with. And then the outside influence was our culture and the internet. So those things combined, yeah.
So culture and the internet, they expanded on the question, was it propaganda, friends, etc.? I think you still answered that. It's from culture, internet.
Yeah. All of the above. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? I'm going to actually close this because I'd like to pray for Maddie before we leave. So anybody have any questions before I close it out? I'll give you 10 seconds. While we're doing that, I got, you know what? I got the perfect thing to time that 10 seconds too. You guys, I need you guys to go check out my wife's candy store, My Snackies. It's my-snackies.com. We're a Christian faith-based business for family owned. Let people know we're out here and share it. Probably just got kicked off TikTok. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, guys. Uh, Thank you again for watching. This has been an episode of Spoken Like a Man. Make sure you check out next week for our next episode. Maddie, if you don't mind, I'd like to pray with you real quick. I didn't get to pray us in. And I actually really regret it. I always pray before I do these, but I feel like that went very well. I feel like it was God led, and I appreciate you for being here.
Mm.
So I'm going to say a quick prayer. God, I love you so much. I love the people that you're putting in my life. I love that you sent your son to die for me so that I would not have to suffer for the sins that I've committed. I worship you because you are worth all of the worship. You are worthy of all of the glory. I am not worthy of it myself. The fact that you love me so much to send somebody, your son, not just somebody, your son, to die for my sins, to go through those brutal lashings, those whippings, the thorn of crowns, being stabbed in his side, hung from a tree. God, I just thank you and worship you so much for it. God, I ask that you I lift Maddie up to you. I just want you to bless her. She's found her identity in you, and I'm so thankful for that. And the fact that you are healing her body, God, not many people that go through these things, that the world is corrupted, get that opportunity. And I'm just so thankful that you are healing her body. And you're taking care of her, God. I ask that you put a hedge of protection around her. And the things that she's going through now, God, she's going through some stuff with her family in New Jersey. I ask that you put your hand on it, you breathe your spirit into her, that your spirit is in her home, that she feels your presence at all times. I ask that everything that she does is glorifying you, God. Finally, I'm going to ask that everything that I do is glorifying you. I don't want this to fall on anybody that would cause harm. I want them to understand, and I want them to see you in everything that we talked about here. I want the folks that are watching this to know that we love them. If they're suffering these confusions themselves, I want you to just I want them to feel convicted from the love that we have for them. I want you to give them your healing grace, God, and I want you to let them see the grace that you've already put in their life. Because whether they know it or not, you are already showing them grace, God. I want you to open their eyes to it, open their eyes to the reality, right? Take the scales from their eyes, help them come out of the delusion that they're in if they're confused about their identity, and let them know that their perfect identity is in you. And God, we love you and thank you again for this wonderful episode. Well, thank you for my friend Maddie in Jesus Christ's wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.